Right, we are nearly live. Just wait for it to show up. That's looking like a good start. And here I am. Okay, so this is part 4 of rebuilding WaniKani with Tailwind CSS. If you've watched the last few episodes, you'll know we've covered the navbar, or the navbar and the search bar so far. Today we are going to be moving on to the next area, which is, what did I call it? What am I doing? Just open up Sublime. It's joys of not entirely preparing. Right, what should I do with that? Okay, move that here. Alright, so home.blade. Oh no, it's dashboard.blade.php. So, okay, so the next section we have is the review status section. That's interesting. What's up with the syntax highlighting there? Ah, curious. Turns out I had a syntax error all along. Does that affect it? No, it doesn't affect anything. So let's just start by creating a div. And then that div is going to be have a class of container, and it's going to have mxauto. Okay, so now we've done that. Well, let's actually take a look at what it is we're going to be building, rather than me just writing a load of HTML without explaining anything. So the review status section is split into 3 columns, and you have this larger text or number to identify the different items. So this is when the next review will be available. As you can see, I have it available now because I am behind. This is how many additional items will be available for review within the next hour, and this is how many additional items will be available for review within the next day. So dead simple layout, and we're going to start by building 3 columns. So div class. So just do W1/3 to create a column that is 1/3 of the width. So 3 of those, and let's just identify them. Column 1, column 2, column 3. And if I load up my version now, it's not working. That's because I did not give this a class of flex. And now we have it working. Right. So before I go any further, the next thing that I'm aware that we're going to need to tackle soonish is we need this extra font available to us because we've not used it so far. So if I move myself into the Tailwind configuration, right, what did I do with fonts? So at the moment I've got this font sans, and then I've got serif and mono. I know I'm not really going to need serif or mono fonts, and I am going to need what was basically a second sans font. So what I'm actually going to do is keep this as sans and maybe name this secondary. And it's an array, not an object that I need. And I'm just going to check what the font stack actually consists of. I know what the font, the main font is Ubuntu, but I'm just checking what else is. So Ubuntu, Helvetica, and then just down to just general sans serif. You know what? I'm actually going to call this sans 2. It's a little more descriptive of the fact that it is sans. Not that that matters because we're not using any serif fonts, but I still feel it's a little less arbitrary than calling it secondary. Okay, so that's that. And I may as well make these available. Alright, so available. No, what am I talking about? Yeah, available now. Available now, and I am going to make this I'm just going to make it a div. Font sans 2. And these are going to be 15 and 6, oh, any number really, but I'll make them 15 and 68. Now let's see what we get. Okay, so that's the right font, but it's not the right weight. I've already got this open, but I couldn't be bothered to find the window then. Alright, so what is the font weight here? So it's just bold. So font bold. Alright. And it's also obviously not the right size or color or centered. So, right, so font size 36 pixels. So 36 divided by 16. No, actually, I'm being stupid. Right, so we have this scale of font sizes that Tailwind supplies. Text size, rather than just scrolling up and down. So 36 is 4XL, so we've already got that size. So text 4XL is what we want. And we also want text center. However, we want to apply it to this rather. If we apply it to the parent element because nothing isn't centered, that saves adding it a load of times. Cool. Well, that's looking a lot closer. And now let's get this color in place. 555 color. Let's scroll back up. Do we have anything that's close to that? So the closest thing is this grey darker. I want to see whether we're using that anywhere or not. Okay, so we are using it. No, are we? Stubs views welcome, so no. Yes, we are using it. Darn. Are we using darkest? Yes. Okay. I don't like this, but I'm just going to name this darker 2. I might reconsider this at the end of the stream and try and fix it up a bit. So text grey dark 2. Now I know this isn't going to work because I'm not actually compiling anything. So npm run watch. Fantastic. Is this doing anything yet? Okay, supposedly it is. Yeah, that's worked. Cool. Well, that is the right color. So the next thing we need is the text underneath it. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, I did not mean to open Twitter. Or that. Alright, I am being stupid. So WaniKani. Kani.com. Don't know what I did there. Alright. Okay. So the next bit of text is, so it's a font awesome icon, and then it's just the next review text. Okay. Right, so icon time next review. I'm refreshing the wrong thing. Next review. Okay, so let's see why the icon's not showing up. It's new website. Okay, so clock is probably what we're looking for. Oh, wrong thing. New. Okay, so what's going on here? What are they actually doing? Time. I wonder if you can access the old docs in any way. It's not clock. Alright, let's inspect our own and see what's going on here. What is going on? 17. Oh, looking for version 4.7. I do think I prefer the old website. Clock. Oh, that's what we've got. That's what we're doing wrong. And I'm also going to add that in tray item as well. No, that's not what it's called. I'm going to double check what they might have called it. Like an inbox. Don't think it is inbox here. Oh, it is. Great. I don't know why it didn't show up when I searched in, unless I was being stupid. Ah, that's a 0 rather than O, so that's not going to work for us. Inbox. Next hour, next day. Next. Okay. And this will still look horrendous, but it's got the text in it. And so what I'm going to do is shrink this text down a bit first. So what size are we doing? So it's the list item that gets styled. I think. This is the review status itself. Well, I can see the font weight. Oh well, let's go for computed. Font size 14 pixels. So I believe that lines up with one of the ones we've got. Text size is, yeah, it's small. So if I apply this to the container, text SM, and I know the font weight is also something we need to do, so font weights light. So font light is what we want. Just close this search. Oh. And that should make it smaller and lighter, which it does. So the next thing we want to do is get the color right. Color 85, 85, 85, which is 555. Same dark color. So if I remove this and add it here and remove the other ones as well. Great. Okay, so there are only 2 more things remaining to do now. We need to add in the borders between the different sections, and we need to add in the margin at the top of the bottom of the sections, as well as in between the larger text and the smaller text. Let's do the borders first, shall we? So this one has a border to the right, and this one has borders either side, and this one has a border to the left. So let's do the simpler ones first. So this has border R. So the first item, border R, and then border L. Okay, so I've added it to all of them. I'm not expecting anything. Oh no, I am wrong. I was going to say I'm not expecting anything to show up, and because I hadn't set a border color, but clearly there is a default border color at work here. So we need to change the colors to match the existing design. I have a suspicion that on this side, on the far right, it is only white, and I'm correct. So just call this border white, should do the trick. Fantastic, that works. And we may already be the right grey. Let me see. Alright, so border left color, RGB 85. So okay, so we're using the same grey as the text color. And what have we got in here? Nope. Okay, so border text, border grey darker too. Okay, that looks a bit too dark. Have I got something wrong here? Am I missing something? RGB 85, 85, 85. Ah, that's what's going on. So border left color is what we don't care about. Border right color is 213, 213, 213. So D5, D5, D5. Set colors, it's all the way up here. D5 is a grey light. Border grey light. And that's the wrong thing to refresh once again. Okay, so it looks darker, but it's possibly only because we've got this grey border next to it. Okay. Now, what we can't do with this one is use any one of those border color classes because it will affect both sides. What I think I am going to do is just create a one-off utility for it. Main.css, not public. Resources. There we go. Alright, so past our components. So I'm just going to put it in between here. So border L color. So border L white, I'm going to call this. And if I just grab this white, covered last time that this config function will pull in any item within the configuration in Tailwind.js. So it's basically looking for the value of colors.white, which corresponds to this lovely object of colors that we create. And okay, so border L white. And we're also going to have to set the general border color as well. So border gray light, border gray light. What this should do is set the border right to be light grey and the border left to be white, which is exactly what's happening. Great. Right, so next up we have the margin on top of, oh no, this is padding. Let's stick with padding if that's what they're using. So we just have this padding of 22.5 pixels. What does that work out as? 22.5 divided by 16. So that works out as roughly 1.4 rem. So we're going to round it up a bit to 1.5 rem, which is on our scale. So all we need to do is add a class of P6. It should be the one that's 1.5 rem. And give this a quick refresh. That feels like it's a bit too... No, it doesn't feel like it's a bit too much. It feels a bit too much for us at the moment, but I think that's because of the other things going on with spacing. And maybe the absence of the section underneath as well. So I'm just going to have a look what the margin underneath the text is like. Margin bottom 0.5 m. So probably doesn't map to our sizes. So let's have a look at computed. Margin bottom 18 pixels. Yes, I'm correct. So it's a little less than 1.5 m. Or 0.5 m. No, it's way more than 1.5 rem. Okay. What am I gonna do? I'm just gonna make it the closest I need, I think. So I'm just gonna stick MB4, which works out as 1 rem on here. So that should be 16 pixels. And yeah, that's close enough. And the final thing in that range of things is to add some margin to the top, or add some spacing to the top of this. So this belongs to... That's interesting. We've got an empty header element here, which maybe contains... I guess it contains something else at some point. Maybe if there's any notices required, that's containing this. But we're talking about roughly 15 pixels. So again, we're in the region of about 1 rem. So I am going to give it to my container here. So MT4. There we go. Okay, one more thing I'm going to do. We've got this the question mark cursor that appears when we hover over available now. So I'm going to reproduce this. I know that the utility for this doesn't exist, so again I'm going to create my own. So this is literally just cursor help. So let's create our own. I'm going to add it in between these. Right, so that is literally all we need. And I need to actually add it to the item as well. Yet again, I've refreshed the wrong thing, but you can see it's working now. So that's the last thing we needed to complete this area. So I believe it's been quite a short stream so far. Wow, how long have we been? That's a half an hour. Yeah, this is the shortest stream we've done so far, anyway. So I was talking about rejigging the spectrum of greys now that we know that we've got one more than we needed before. I think I'm going to stick with what it is at the moment. I think I'm going, rather than reorganizing them now, I'm going to see which other ones crop up and then maybe reorganize them towards the end of the series, or maybe later on, depending on how many other greys we acquire. So we're going to keep this one as grey darker 2 for now. One last thing I am going to do, however, is add something I missed out on when we were building the nav bar is that there is this subtle gradient going on in the background. It's not just white. So I am going to add that. So what gradient are we talking about? That's okay. Linear gradient to bottom, white to slightly off white. And then I'm just going to create a utility for this as well. So I'm going to call this BG linear gradient off white. I'm going to give that background image and then set it to this linear gradient. And navbar. G. Cool, that's a bit closer looking. Okay, well, I think that's actually it for today. So in the next stream, we will create this bar here, which we are calling the progression bar. In fact, this is the progression bar, and then we've got progression meters as well. So we may split this into 2 lessons or 2 streams. Alright, well, thank you for watching, and catch you next time. Bye. Now watch me fumble about trying to remember where I put the software to do the stream and press stop, which I'm going to do now. Goodbye.